Good morning. Hey, Chrissy. Give everybody a minute to get in here. It's a lovely day. It, of course, has been beautiful all day, and as soon as I was on my way here, it started to rain. But it stopped. But I have an umbrella handy, but I swear, it just always gonna rain at Sunday at 4 o'clock in Paris. Here, obviously, I am at the Place d'Etoile here at the Arc de Triomphe, and maybe we'll see. There's a horse and carriage I've been seeing go around here a couple times. Hey, Cheryl. Hi, Jean. And maybe we'll see him. I mean, he's not very fast, but he's going around. Maybe we'll see him come back over here. But today, we have a lot of ground to cover, a little over 2 kilometers, so we're gonna get hustling here in a second. But we are here at the Arc de Triomphe because today's going to be about Victor Hugo and some of the fun things that you could find over here on the Avenue Victor Hugo. And we're starting here at the Arc de Triomphe, and then we'll head all the way down. But it was on May 31st in 1885 is when he actually had his funeral here at the Arc de Triomphe. Hi, Susan. The Arc de Triomphe, of course, was built by the wishes of Napoleon, because he wanted his troops to return under the triumphant arch as they came back to Paris. But they put the first stone in 1806, and it was finally finished and inaugurated on July 29th, 1836. So it took 30 years, but it not our little friend Napoleon did not ever see it finished. But when he did marry his second wife, he had them build. Hi, Angela and Catherine. He did have them build an entire replica of it in wood, so that the wedding procession could actually pass underneath it on the way out. And so here we have it. It's pretty amazing. I was thinking today we should do one, and I could do it from over there. The problem is because you have to go underground to get to it, I would definitely lose you. So we're on this side, but one day we'll do one on the whole thing, and I'll explain what all of those sculptures mean. It's pretty amazing. I think it's until you see it, you really don't realize how monstrous it is. Oh, here comes the rain again. I tell ya. Hang on a second. Let me get my umbrella going. But we're gonna go ahead and get started because we have a lot of ground to cover. But his funeral, spoiler alert, we're gonna go down to we're gonna see the place that he lived when he died. But he died on May 22nd, 1885, and his funeral was here on May 31st. And so on May 31st, they actually left his apartment, which is on 124 Avenue Victor Hugo, which used to be number 50. And so they left that day, and they brought his whole cortege, came up here to the Arc and parked underneath it. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. And then on June 1st in the morning at 6 a.m., they had over 200 different groups that came here, and they had it was a state funeral for him. And then they went from here to the Pantheon, which he was one of the first that went directly into the Pantheon. A lot of times they're buried, and then later, they vote on it and decide, and the presidents decide, because we like my girl, we have to get in there, Rose Vallon. What in the world is that thing? And so it took 7 hours to get from here to get from the very last group that left the Arc de Triomphe. It took 7 hours from start to finish to get all the way for everybody to finally arrive at the Pantheon. But we're gonna head on down here. It was beautiful. Now look at this. Ugh. This has been Paris for 3 months. It's been rainy and not great, but hopefully maybe it's just a passing clouds. But Victor Hugo itself, it's just a little bit over 2 kilometers long. It cuts right through the 16th. We'll end up pretty close to the edge of Paris. You don't have to go very far to actually literally be at the Périphérique at the end of this. And so you think of, the Arc de Triomphe somewhat here in the center, but you have all these streets that go off here. And so they cut very far and deep into the city. It is also windy. We will. This is a somewhat quiet area in the on the weekends. You could do some nice shopping around here. But I found the story of one person that lived down the street that I'll tell you about in a bit. But that took me on about down a 2-hour rabbit hole. And then when I found out his name's attached to my girl Rose Vetlon, I almost switched the whole theme of this. But I didn't. Oh yeah, there's some pink. Look at that, some very pink things. Because people, it's not raining right there. No, just where we're going. So you have a restaurant right over there on the side. You see straight ahead, Prunier. And that restaurant is now 100 years old, but it was originally opened by a gentleman named Napoleon Brunet. And he opened a restaurant in 1872 over more into the second. It's a really beautiful, good. You can see the facade's really pretty. Now it's really raining. But inside, Susan, you'll like this. Inside, the bar is designed by Yves Saint Laurent and his partner, his longtime partner, Pierre Berger. Yeah, it's really raining. So you have to come. It's a really 1924. He ended up, his father passed away and his son had it, and his son then moved it over to here 100 years ago. And it's a fish. It's mostly all fish and seafood restaurant. But Fitzgerald and Hemingway, we're going to stay on this side under these trees a little bit. Fitzgerald and Hemingway like to go there. And it's really beautiful, and I was even thinking of timing it where I'd go the other direction and then maybe come back here, but then I saw the prices, decided against that idea. But Susan, I bet Oprah would love that. Put it on your little list. Oh. I swear to all things that are holy. Why? And I don't have a coat. Hang on. We're gonna tuck in here for a second. But the restaurant is really beautiful. But Yves Saint Laurent, they did design the bar. So that one, it was closed for a year or two. And now it's under, a restaurant group has it. So it's not still in the family. His granddaughter, Napoleon Prunier's granddaughter, she and her husband took it over after her father, Emile, died. And then they had opened one then in London. And then after she passed away, then it was passed off to a big restaurant group bought it. I'm just going to wait a second for a break because look at this. Is this midnight in Paris rain? Literally, it says, of course, it's not going to rain today. And it even says it's supposed to be sunny. But nope. All right, we got a lot to do, so we're just gonna go until I get too wet. Okay, maybe I should have stayed. Oh my gosh. Oh, I gotta. Okay, I'm gonna have to wait a minute, guys. This is like... It just set that car alarm off. So anyway, so Victor Hugo. Maybe if we all just tell you everything we're going to see. So he lived on this street, and the street was actually named Victor Hugo on his 79th birthday. And so he lived on the street when it was called Avenue Victor Hugo, which, how weird is that, to get your mail sent to you and it says Victor Hugo, Avenue Victor Hugo? Do you think, I think maybe the postman would be like, yeah, right, that's really not your name. But we're going to go down there and see that, and we'll also see, I'm wearing tennis shoes, but they are not waterproof tennis shoes, and they're not my Louboutins, but they're different ones. They're my Marie Antoinette ones I was gifted. But it's more my pant legs are soaking wet because they're trousers. But we're also going to see a church here. No, Sharon, because it wasn't supposed to rain as per usual in front of Paris. It says it's not going to rain, but I took my umbrella anyway, which I'm very happy to do because the people to my right hiding, it looks like it's kind of slowing down a little. I think it should hopefully pass, but literally blue sky and beautiful all day long. But I think it is slowing down. I'll give it another minute. But I guess I could already tell you about the favorite thing. So over 67 down, I don't even know what number we are at here. We're 26 across the street. So we get to number 67. We're going to be at a door of a place where George Mandel lived. And he lived there from 1936 to 1940. He was a minister of the interior and the minister of the colonies. But he was also Jewish. And he was arrested on June 17th, 1940. By the Gestapo. They arrested him. They sent him to Germany and they put him in a camp. And then he was put into the camp that was for basically political prisoners. And he was put there and released for some reason. The Germans decided to bring him back to Paris and they put him in the Santé prison. And so he was at the prison and they were taking him out to Fontainebleau. And the Germans pretended that there was a car problem and stopped the car and basically had him get out of the car and shot him 16 times in the back. And so he was killed on that July 7th, 1940. But one of the things is just 3 years ago, his name came up again because he also had a pretty big art collection. And this art collection was, of course, stolen by the Germans. And also, they also say that Hitler personally ordered his death. Basically the assassination on him. And so, but he had this massive art collection that the Germans stole. And some of those ended up into the hands of one disgusting Nazi that stole everything named Gerlit. His grandson was later given the art collection. It was 1,500 pieces. Okay, I think it sounds like it's slowing down. He was given 1,500 pieces. This guy's coming this stuff. 1,500 pieces. But he was arrested. And when he was arrested, they ended up finding some of this art. And it was all given to a museum. And so, but they didn't realize that most of it, they didn't realize that it had all been looted. And so, because some of the pieces that he had were not. So when they started looking into it a few years ago, they had a painting that was done by Thomas Couture. Thomas Couture, if you go to the Orsay, there's a massive painting there called the Roman Decadence, or known as the Roman Orgy. And that painting, I always say, is kind of like the Wedding Feast of Cana by Veronese in the Louvre. This painting is later on that night, a couple hours into it, of everybody drinking all the wine. And Thomas Couture, Manet actually worked in his studio when he was up and coming artist. So, but this painting was stolen by this German officer, and it went into this museum. And so it was just a few years ago returned. It was only the sixth painting from the collection that was returned. But one of the reasons they were able to figure it out is because the museum and the Germans, even a few years ago, were just trying to kind of put roadblocks up and try not to let any of them do investigations. And now there's a thing called the Washington Pact, which has just had its 25th anniversary, and a bunch of other things. But they're finally, more of them are coming out of their reluctancy and trying to do their part. So they went through and did research and found some notes. And there was a note, oh, it's windy. There was a note that said that there was a small hole in the painting just above her chest. And when they looked at the painting, there was in fact had been a hole that had been repaired. And that hole was mentioned in a document in the notes by my girl, Rose Vallon. So see, Rose Vallon, she's still doing it. She's still able to help get art returned. So it ended up getting returned to his descendants. George's real name was Louis Rothschild, no relation to the other Rothschilds, but that was his name, Louis Rothschild. So the painting was returned to his descendants. I tried to find out where it was now, because sometimes they do that and they end up actually selling it or giving it to a museum, but I could not find any mention of it anywhere. You know, the Seine is still actually a little high, and just even a week ago, the boats still could not go past Pont des Arts. So we shall see how this is going to work for the Olympics. Also, on June 23rd, the mayor is supposed to do her triumphant plunge into the Seine. And there's all these jokes online about what people need to do in the Seine. Horrible, because they hate her so much. Look at how beautiful this building is. Oh, right under a tree. So this building here, number 50, was designed by Charles Plumet, and it's one of the very last buildings of Art Nouveau. Look at, I wish I could zoom in on that for you, but I gotta, wait, let me try. If I can hold the umbrella. Look at those balconies, the sculptures. How about that one up at the top? Yeah, with all of the geraniums. Still need to go buy my geraniums. But that one in number 39 behind us was by the same architect. Victor's location is number 24. Back then it was number 50. What? I feel that I need that. Okay, it's getting better, I think. I think I'll try to cross over here. Since we're in the 16th, there's a bunch of embassies over here, of course. Oh, here it is. We actually don't want to cross because this is where Georges lived, here at number 67. Oh my gosh, guys, the front of my pant legs are soaking wet. Okay. Here's where he lived, and here's actually should be a plaque. I think she got caught in the rain too. Looks pretty happy. Here we are. There's a little plaque for him. Beautiful building. You have very grand buildings over here. Check these out. Along with some newer buildings. Sorry. You have a lot more wrought iron doors here than you have wood doors. And we're gonna go up through here. We're gonna go through the Place Victor Hugo. But one street off of this, the next street over, when we get over here, is the Avenue Leonardo da Vinci. Hopefully you've all listened to all 6 episodes, whoops, we've done so far of Mona Lisa on the podcast. Tomorrow is, we're actually doing a replay of when I did the first year about Bert Morisot, because the Crystal's schedule and my schedule has been a little insane this month. We weren't able to sync up, so we're doing a replay about one of my favorite ladies, Bert Morisot. Look at these, 140 euros. It's Mother's Day here today. There's a big geranium. Oh, sweet thing. But here we are, Avenue Victor Hugo. We're gonna go around to that other side because that church, I want to show you that church because it has a little something to do with Ernest Hemingway. I remember coming up here a very long time ago, but here if you want to get your Swiss-made cookies, don't go there anymore. Not made in France. Okay, peeps. It's a little on the busy side now. We're just gonna cross. So here in the very middle, so there used to be a huge, and in that they would have sporting events. And that was built here in 1836. And just 4 years later, a massive fire took out the whole thing. And that used to basically be right here where the Place Victor Hugo is. He also has lost you guys for a second. But I got in trouble when I wanted to take a picture, so I don't think we better try to go in. But this church here, now, are you guys hearing me, Susan? I just saw a WhatsApp message. It stopped. Is it working? Can you guys hear me, see me? Hopefully. Somebody let me know in the comment. Oh, good. Thank you. So this beautiful church, it's a very small church. Let me get back a little further. Thanks, Susan. This little, lovely little church here is where on May 11th, Hemingway and his second wife, Pauline, got married. So they got married right here in this church. It's the Saint-Honoré de l'Eau, and it is a smaller one. This one's older. It goes back to 1852. Baudelaire actually also had his funeral here on September 2nd, 1867. They had his funeral, and there is on here a statue of Joan of Arc. Let me see if we could find her on the outside. Oh, great, here comes her again. But the statue is of Joan of Arc, done by Marie d'Orléans. And Marie d'Orléans was the daughter of Louis Philippe and an artist in her own right. But as I was saying, here you can see a little bit better at the church. Yeah, it's raining again. Hemingway and Pauline got married on May 10th, 1927. And their wedding, of course, he had married to Hadley, and Pauline put her hooks into him and took him away. I think we have to go to the next one for Victor. But he had to actually, because he had been married before and Pauline was a very devout Catholic, he had to actually get an approval by the church to get married. And so he had said, oh, no, I've been baptized. And he goes, I think it happened when I was in the hospital in Italy. And, okay, I'm not sure which one was. We might be going around the whole circle here, because this one's not Victor. Maybe we need to go back the other way. Maybe it was on the other side. Oh, we'll just keep going. And he told her, oh, no, I was baptized. And she didn't think he was. And when he did, fine, yeah, it's the next one. When he ended up convincing a priest to sign something to say and agree that he had been baptized before. But by the priest doing that, he made his entire first marriage to Hadley null and void. Not very nice, especially when she's the mother of your children. Now we're back on Victor. So we'll go down. So when Victor moved here, and he moved in here with his mistress, Juliette. And Juliette Drouet was his mistress, and they met in 1833. And they were together until her death for 50 years. And she was a pretty amazing woman, because they met because Hugo was first writing, of course, he was first writing for the theater. And then he started writing books, of course, as we know, with Notre Dame de Paris. And, oh, this is the place that has the coat I want. Notre Dame de Paris, and also Les Miserables. So, but he wrote for the theater first. And so they met in 1833. And he moved her in to an apartment very close to him. This is, at this point when they met, he was living in Place des Vosges. And then he had her close by, but he told her she wasn't allowed to ever leave. And she had to write him a letter 3 times a day. So she would write these letters and have them sent over to him. And they were constantly, at first, she was just basically rewriting his things. So, before we had printers or even carbon paper, she would actually go in and handwrite copies of what he was writing, to be for his records and to be sent places. Then the two of them started having an affair. He was married to a woman at the time named Adele. And Adele, they were childhood friends. They were very close. But she started having an affair with a guy named Saint-Beuve. And when we did a tour years ago in Odeon, we talked about a couple places where he used to live. And oh, look how pretty that is. So she was having an affair. Victor was having an affair. It's a good old time all the way around. But Victor, when Napoleon, he was kind of close with, oh, look, here's the dress again. He was very anti-Bonaparte. And so on December 2nd, 1851, when Napoleon III held a coup, he was the president of France. He wanted to stay in charge of France a little longer, so he had a coup on the anniversary of his uncle's coronation, and he named himself emperor. So on 9 days later, Victor Hugo's like, I'm out of here. So he left and took off. Uh-oh. You know what? We went a circle. I was like, that's the same dress. Oh, this weather's getting me. That was the same dress we saw. And I also thought something else looked the same. But the numbers are getting smaller. Okay, we're going back this way. But look, now the sun's coming. Here's the building again. Look at the sky. So, but he left. So he left in 1851. Oh, hang on a second. 1851. And he first went to Belgium, and Juliette followed him. And then he went to Jersey and Guernsey, which is where he spent a majority of his time. But Juliette came with him, and when she was there, she lived in her own place right next door to him, and his wife would come, and they had 2 children, and the wife even had said, like, if something happens to your father, if he passes away, make sure that you take care of Juliette. So it was kind of a whole thing that, you know, everybody in the family knew. They all understood. But Juliette and Hugo were together for 50 years. She died in the same apartment. Now it's raining and blue sky and sunny. May 11th, 1883. And they have them saved, 22,000 letters that she would write to him. We might not get to the end of the street. See, these turnarounds in France, even on foot, they're confusing. But we'll cut through here. But it doesn't have it. It's not like it's perfectly lined up. And it's a circle. Now we're heading back down here. Oh, and you even see one of those stupid douche-avo cars. How's the weather where you guys are right now? Nice to see the driver sitting there with clients in the car smoking. Classy. Tornadoes. Ugh. Yeah, I have a client coming from Texas, but I have a friend that lives here, and they have a ranch in Texas, and there was some damage, so they have to, her husband's going back there. I think we needed to be on the other side of the creek. We'll get there. We're doing pretty good on time. Have you guys spent much time up in this area? There's not a whole lot in way of things you're definitely going to come and see. They did, there is a bigger, so like the church over here, the Saint-Honoré, where Hemingway was married, down the next street. There is a much larger one that was built later, and that one gets mistakenly listed all the time as where he and Pauline got married, but it wasn't. It was at the little one. Oh, up here, Susan? I walked by yours the other day, as I do all the time, and they were sawing something inside with the windows open. So I thought maybe they're doing your marble or your tiles, you said. I keep an eye on Susan's apartment, letting her know when they're not working. Any closer to being done? No. I wish there was still a statue of Victor Hugo up there, but you will see one here at the end of the street if we ever make it, of Victor Hugo done by Rodan. Mid-June, well, that's good. That's better. Yep, we were right by the street. I went too far. But Cheryl, if you're watching, because Cheryl, this is where I kind of had the idea to come up here, because I had posted something on the anniversary of Pauline and Hemingway's anniversary. And Cheryl said, do you ever go there on tours, on a tour, a Hemingway tour? And I said, no, because it's pretty far from everything that he is associated with. So then I thought, well, I'll just go do a little walk, our Sunday walk. So now we'll have to pick up the pace. Starbucks, of course. You don't go there here. Nicolas. They have wine stars everywhere in the city. So we're not too far from Victor's, and on the building, you'll see where they have the little sculpture of him on the facade of the building too. There's quite a few stores over here, considering how it's kind of a little bit more quiet area. Cookies. Oh, and it's the Avenue Montespan. It's a private street down there, but named after Montespan, who was the love of Louis XIV. And she is the one that was involved in the affair of the poisons, which we also did an episode about a year and a half ago on. And she had been poisoning Louis for years. If you watch that TV show, it might have stopped raining. If you watch that TV show Versailles, done by the BBC, check this building out. Pretty darn it. She's figures in the show prominently for like 2 seasons, and the affair of the poisons and the horrible ritual they did of bleeding a baby, killing and bleeding a child, it's just disgusting, to make this potion that she would then give him to try to make him fall in love with her. And so when the affair of the poisons happened, she once it got into finding when the detective was working on it, and once they found that it had this huge connection to Louis XIV, Louis had the minister destroy a bunch of his research because it would be really embarrassing to the king to have been a part of that. We're only 10 numbers away from Victor. It's actually pretty busy over here, isn't it? Here's a second Sephora, unless I've going backwards again. Oh, hi. Oh, I love Roger. Here he is again. Roger and Rafa. Annie Leibovitz did that photo campaign, and they did it up in the Swiss Alps. And apparently it was the first time Rafa had ever seen snow. So there was a little video of them laughing about it. Let's cross so we could get right in front of his number. And I'm just gonna go on the red. Losing you again. $120. Rainy in Minnesota. I guess that's better than snow, right? We're getting close. This Schwarzhot, there's an in my neighborhood now too. Guess they have things other than hot dogs. So here we are. Right here. This is where he lived and died. And it even says, there's a plaque for him. So that's right there where Victor and Juliette died. So when they did his funeral, so that May 31st, they picked him, they had his casket. So his casket, I'm going to try to close up my umbrella. His casket, he said that he wanted the casket of a pauper. He didn't want some, because he was alive. Writers, I think they sometimes get their fame. It's hard to do my umbrella. A lot of the big writers that we know of found their fame when they were alive. Not always the case for painters. So he was already beloved, famous. Of course, he did the Notre Dame de Paris, and Les Mis. But he had said he didn't want to have this huge funeral service. He wanted his cortege, his casket, to be that of a pauper. So they did do that. They had his on just kind of a plain, being taken by a carriage. It's basically on a very plain cart. His casket was covered with a black cloth, and that was it. But what came behind it was this massive structure that was multi-stories high, just humongous. And so they pulled that in, so they took him out from his apartment, and then they brought both his actual casket and the other one to the Arc de Triomphe, parked it there overnight. And hundreds of thousands of people came overnight to pay their respects. Chimonier won for the best croissant a couple years ago. But they all came to pay their respects. And then, of course, when he was taken up to the Pantheon, everybody was there to see it. But when he was younger, when he just was first starting, he took part in this poetry contest in 1817. It was in the poetry contest in Toulouse. And they still do this today, and it goes all the way back to the 14th century. And if I've given you a walk in Saint-Germain and around the Jardin de Luxembourg, I have told you about a woman that is tied to that, who wasn't really a real person. Her name was Clémence Isaro, and she became the face of this poetry contest every year in Toulouse. The winners receive gold or silver flowers. He won 3. He won a gold rose and then 2 other silver flowers. And so who this woman was is they had their headquarters there, and in this headquarters they had a sculpture in the courtyard. And the sculpture had been in a church before, and it was a sculpture of a woman, but nobody knew who it was. And so they ended up just putting it there, and it was there for like centuries. And the poets started writing stories about her and giving her a name. So that's how we know who she is. So here's one thing that's kind of cool, how France does elections, which is a lot better than how America does them, is it's very controlled. You have the European elections coming up for the EU. And so they control when you could put signs up, everything. So they have these, and this is where you could only put posters. So they can't put posters on, every surface, everywhere you look. You could only put them on these here, and it'll probably be next week. So they could only do it for really a week. And you have to stop campaigning at midnight on Friday. The elections are always on Sunday. Oh, look at that. Who was that? But, so this woman, Clémence, she is one of the 20 illustrious women of the Luxembourg, and she wasn't even a real person. How about that? Look at how pretty. Oh, this is a very historic, very old, used to be a butcher shop. That facade, let me show you. But it's not anymore. But here's one little thing. So I see people on Instagram all the time saying, oh, I love how Paris keeps these things. They have to. If it is a facade like that and it is actually deemed historic, you cannot change it. So sometimes you see a clothing store or something underneath what looks like it used to be a pastry shop, but you have to keep them. Look at Pietro. Lots of iron doors. Are those? Oh no, I thought those were the French knives. Nope. The Martine, we're coming up to this little square. We're almost making it to the end. Look at that. This little square up here. He was a romantic writer. Good friends with my man Delacroix. Trusting those clouds so much up there. Anyway, I was just saying earlier, I am going to send a message to the Patreon members about some different ideas for walks for you guys to let me know something you might want to see. It's going to be difficult to get around right now. Usually on foot, it's not too bad, but driving in this city right now is harrowing. They already have Pont Alexander Croix. It's closed to cars. Will not reopen to cars till September. Place de la Concorde is, the Trocadero, half of the Trocadero is closed. It's a big mess already. But this is this square, Martine. Here, and we're gonna just go to the end of the street. I think we did this one time with with Kate years ago. This is the third. We're past the 3-year mark of doing these tours for you. I don't think anybody else is not doing them that long. But you have a mix over here of old buildings. Look at that up there. So we're getting close to the end, but we're deep in the 16th now. Look at those beautiful roses. It's kind of a little. It's a perfect size little house in Paris. Oh, I think it's raining again. But now it's getting quieter. But some of the metro lines at Concorde is already closed. It's been closed, the metro stop. Oh, something smells like Jasmine. So go right around the corner here, and we're gonna see Hugo himself. Has everybody read his books? And Notre Dame de Paris is, of course, in the US. In English, it's Hunchback. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Oh, if you didn't see, might be disappeared by now. And check my Instagram stories, because they returned the cross to the Juliette, the very back of the church. And the cross was designed by Viollet-le-Duc, 1850, and it is the only thing that survived the fire. I remember getting here 4 days later, and it was sitting on the edge of the building, basically hanging off the edge, and kind of quiet. I mean, basically on the middle of the choir. And they fixed it. It took 8 months. They've cleaned it up, fixed it, re-gilded it, and it is now back. So they just put that on Friday. So here we are. Here we have, oh man, right into a huge mud puddle. Here we have Mr. Hugo himself. He's always depicted holding his ear like that. But he was, Rodan was commissioned in 1889 to do this after Hugo's death. But Hugo had already sat for Rodan in 1883 to do a bust for him. And so when he was commissioned to do this, he decided to do Victor Hugo, and he's sitting on a rock in Guernsey, and he is surrounded, he has two allegories. So the person sitting is the muse of tragedy, and then behind him, standing up, is meditation. So meditation is standing behind him. He looks like maybe he should be surfing. That's a good. But you can see models, and if you go to the Rodan Museum, which I encourage everybody to go to, it's a beautiful place, really manageable, not very big. But you see sketches of this, smaller pieces that he had been working on. The original one had 3 people in it. So, and this was actually intended to go into the Palais Royal, but it was decided not to put it there. And then it's kind of fitting that they put it here at the end of the street that is named after him. And that's Avenue Victor Hugo right there. But here we are, we're deep. We're actually not that far from the edge, the peripherique of Paris, right here. So, alrighty guys, we did it. Even with the rain, we did it. But I will leave you guys here. I hope you all enjoy your Sunday. Happy French Mother's Day to my mom if she's watching. She could have 2, a French and an American one. But there you go, guys. All right, I thank you very much, and listen tomorrow to the podcast. It's a replay about one of my favorite ladies, Berthe Morisot. She's fantastic. She was an impressionist painter. She was friends with Manet, married his brother. Look at this cute little car coming. Thank you, Susan. Look at how cute that little thing is. Thank you, Angela. So, alrighty, guys, I am going to go home and dry my pants off. I should not have been wearing trousers that could get doused in rain. Thanks, Debbie. Thank you, Catherine. If anybody wants to send a tip, you can send it to Claudine at ClaudineHemingway.com on Venmo or PayPal. But thank you guys so much. I appreciate you watching and sticking in there with me in the rain. And we'll do something fun again next week.